when you're in a position to win the race, that's not when you settle the score. You try to win the race first and settle the score later, because I still believe that Kyle Larson could have won that race if he'd have raced like Kyle Larson.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Go on. Keep on What a race! California's Kevin Harvick does it. Straight making right there. You're the man.
Welcome to Kevin Harvick's Happy Hour, presented by NASCAR on Fox. I'm Kevin Harvick. She's Kaitlyn Vincie, and he's our mystery guest.
He is our
for the
mystery
weekend.
guest.
What in the hell are you wearing?
Yeah.
I'm a concrete cowboy, Kev.
It's
Concrete cowboy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because we came from Nashville and now we're going to the streets of Chicago, so I'm a concrete cowboy.
You look like you're stuck somewhere between Nashville and Chicago.
I'm stuck between a
Be
lot
on the
of
side of the
places.
road hitchhiking, it looks like to me.
Well, I had to
Looking for your
drive
ride
home from
to
Nashville, so that was long. That was
All you need is a guitar on your back, and
Yeah.
I guess you'd have to go back to Nashville
To get the guitar?
looking for your break.
looking for my
that's
big
a
break.
sharp hat though. Where did you get that?
Wrestler Hat Company
In Nashville.
in Nashville. Yeah.
And,
Oh,
but you
you
got a
bought
K
that.
on there for
Yeah,
us.
look at that.
There's
You
a
got the
K
K,
for Kevin
yeah.
and Kaitlyn.
Look at that. Perfect. Uh-huh.
It's a nice little
Looks
feather
to me
detail.
like you need to get a mirror.
Yes. No. Why?
Because you're totally confused. You've got your Pumas on, you've got your
You
camo
want me,
pants.
You want me to break
your-
this down
your
for you?
dentist?
Yeah,
Please
the-
break
All
it
right,
down.
break it down
look,
for us.
From top to bottom, okay? So actually bottom to top. Let's go that way.
Okay.
So I go with the red shoe with the red Pumas.
Those are
right?
black.
Black with
Black
the
and
red
red.
with the red
Okay.
accent. Okay, that matches the shirt.
Okay. I
Right?
see that now.
Okay.
Yep.
I wanted something else because this is this is nice and it's black.
This is nice.
This
he
is
says.
nice. You have no idea what it is, but it's
This
nice.
is nice. It's a jersey, for the White Sox that goes with the black shoes.
So you're going to go to a White Sox game while you're in Chicago?
I don't think I'll have time.
No.
But the camo pants go with the green hat that I really needed to wear because I just bought it.
Honestly, it's the snake ring for me.
Well,
Yeah.
that's
But he
from-
wears that all the time.
Yeah.
Piper's bracelet.
and Piper's,
And Piper's
bracelet.
bracelet.
So
Yeah.
like we got a lot of things going on.
He has more
you
jewelry than
definitely
I
have a
do.
lot going on. You might want to
Yes, he
simplify it
does.
next week.
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
Listen,
Y'all-
you're simple and you look good doing it.
Yeah.
Someone has to bring the
Someone has to bring some style.
yeah.
Well, I'm going to leave that to her.
I wish I had a camera on Kevin's face when he first saw you, though. That was pretty funny.
He
His
wasn't ready.
reaction.
I've
Yeah.
never seen you wear that much bling.
Stuff.
I know.
Yeah.
He's like, do I say it?
Bling.
Bling.
Yeah. No, sometimes I wear a fistful in rings.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. It's going to be a good show, guys. It's already off to a great start. We want to encourage the closers to continue subscribing on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. Also, give us a rating. Give us some 5 stars. We always like that, right?
Yeah, we always like that. Closers have been they're just
Could
gassed
be
up.
worse.
Could be
Huh?
worse. Yeah.
Could be worse.
Yeah, you
don't like us, tell us that too.
Yeah,
That's
if you
true.
Want, if you want to see something
We
better,
can take
like,
some criticism
Or just
as
tune
well.
out. One
Or
the
tune
other.
out.
You don't like us? Watch
you-
something else.
Speaking of tuning out, you know what I think is so funny on our socials, on the handle for the podcast? There'll be some people that are like, all Kevin does is just talk. And I'm like,
It's like, that's the point,
It's
you
Kevin Harvick's
freaking
Happy
idiot.
Hour podcast.
It's a podcast.
Like, I don't know what you want.
Should we not talk?
Yeah. I guess you should just sit there in
Yeah.
silence.
I'll just sit. And then I won't talk enough. That's my
People
favorite.
are
Clint posted
stupid.
something on social on X the other day, and the first comment was, "Clint, you talk too much and act like whatever." And then the next comment was, "I wish Harvick talked more. He doesn't say enough." And it's like, what in
You
the
can't
world?
keep
We're
up.
watching the same thing, though.
Yeah, watching the same thing. We have a lot to talk about on this
Yeah.
show today, and I want to start though first with your weekend because you were back in the race car. We obviously were so stoked for you getting back racing. How was it?
It was fun. I had a blast and learned a new racetrack, learned a new car, got my butt kicked by Bubba Pollard. Bubba Pollard lapped me, so that made me feel pretty good. But we went to Pensacola, Florida to Five Flag Speedway, and I think they had almost 6,000 people show up to the race,
That's
which is
amazing.
the track where they have the Snowball Derby. And we had people drive from 12 hours away. One guy brought his little girl from 8 hours away because I didn't sign his picture in Homestead. They didn't get a chance to sign the picture that I took with his little girl. So he drove his little girl 8 hours
Oh wow!
to come to the race and get their picture signed. They hung out in the pits, for the whole day, stuck around after the race and signed autographs for about an hour and a half with the fans, which led to a beer drinking competition that I will always lose against Bubba Pollard.
You're not beating that. You're not. He's a
And
grizzly
thank
bear.
God it rained.
Really?
Thank God
Okay.
it rained because that would have been a disaster. It started downpouring and we had to leave. But
So how many beers did you have then?
probably more than I should have. Yeah. it was just, that's what you're supposed to do, right?
Exactly.
We're going to the short tracks and enjoying
Love that.
enjoying the time. And I definitely enjoyed myself. We need to work on our car a little bit to make it a little better, but I wouldn't be shocked if we race a few more times now.
Oh, you hear
Delana, I'm
that?
sorry.
Yeah.
It was too
More
much fun.
racing.
So all right. So you got to work on the car a little bit. How's the driver though? How did the driver do?
Well, the first day I was nervous. The first day because I'd never been there. I hadn't driven the car. You're racing against those are the best of the best super late model guys in the country. They can go anywhere in the country, that group of guys, and win races. So, but that's how I wanted to do it. I wanted to step way outside of my comfort zone to be able to say, okay, these are the cars I want to race. I need to go race against the best guys, because that's how you get better quicker.
Yeah.
When you go and you start, at the, bottom and try to work your way up, you kind of get this false sense you're going to get your butt kicked when you get to the top anyway. So we figured, what the heck, we'll just start there and work our way backwards. But I felt good until about lap 50. It was hot.
I bet.
And I decided,
Brutal.
I said, I'm going to put this cool shirt in here and we're going to get it all hooked up and it's going to be the best late model race ever. And
Cool
guess
shirt.
what happened?
It failed.
What happened?
It failed. Alternator went out just before halfway. All the gauges shut off. Shirt went out. All the fans went off. And I was like, oh my God, I'm going to die. It was Panhandle, Florida hot.
Can you
That's
explain to people
unbelievable,
so
yeah.
the cool suit, like we've heard guys on Sunday and Saturday when the cool suit goes out, because it's running water through it.
Yeah.
So when it goes out, it's not cycling, which means it's the same sitting water for lap after lap.
Starts to get hot.
Starts to boil.
Yes.
Yeah.
So did you have time was there a break? Like, did you take the cool suit off? Or did
No,
you,
just a caution.
so you just had to cook like a lobster.
I just cooked. Opened my shield up and let it rip.
Yeah,
I got out.
I
I was laying in the trailer afterwards, just trying to cool off, and I sat up about halfway, and I've got my shirt off and my suit down, and Keelan's sitting next to me, and I was fine, but
Yeah.
I was hot.
Yeah.
And he looked over. He's like, "Dad, it's so weird to look over at you right now. You've got a big puddle of sweat in your belly button." And I was like, "That's just kind of weird." I'm like, I've got sweat just running everywhere. And he's like, "Are you
funny
sure you're okay?" I'm like,
commentary.
"It's not the first time I've been hot, but that's why you train in the heat."
Yeah.
And really, everything that I've done in the past, when you get to May 1st, you take the gym outside because you have to be used to the heat. So
Yeah.
I haven't changed any of that since I stopped driving full time on the Cup side. I still believe that if you're going to go outside and enjoy the summer, you're going to have to be used to the heat. You can't go from the air conditioning to the heat. And I knew I was going to race, so I wanted to be used to the elements still.
So your next one is North Wilkesboro, right?
Yep.
Okay,
And
so-
we're going to just switch up cars.
Okay.
So last week, I did a little Hoosier tire test in the late model stock car. I went to Tri-County for the first time, went to Hickory, I guess technically for the second time, but it's been 25 years.
Did it look the same?
No, the infield's paved.
Okay.
The track was the same.
Everything else
looks the
Everything else looks the same.
25 years.
Wall's still about to fall down. I don't think it's been painted since I raced there last, but it's a totally different car. Late model stock is it's a Cars Tour race at North Wilkesboro. So that's the series that myself and Dale and Jeff Burton and Justin Marks own that we've ran for the last couple of years. So I'm looking forward to running that race at North Wilkesboro August 3rd. So in the late model stock car
That's
for the
gonna be
first
awesome.
time this year, probably going to be the exact same thing, just a butt kicking from a different group of people. But that's the way it goes.
The difference between the late model stock and the super, like the late model stock never really turns as much as you want it to do. Like it's harder to get it to operate. Like I feel like the super, at least you have so much horsepower that you can like kind of maneuver it a little bit differently. So
Totally different.
Yeah.
One's got a rack, one's got a steering box.
Yeah.
One's weighs 3,100 pounds, one weighs 2,800 pounds. One's got a lot of horsepower, one doesn't have a lot of
Left
horsepower.
side weight more like
It's two totally different styles of cars, but our goal is to do the same thing. And that's to have fun.
Have you run
I'm
a
sure
Cars
that
Tour
you
race
will,
already?
yeah.
I ran one Cars Tour race at North Wilkesboro. That's
Okay.
the only one I've run was at North Wilkesboro.
Okay.
Yep.
That's going to be a good show. We look forward to it. So you had a busy weekend. How was your weekend? I actually saw you.
Yeah.
I got to see
Oh, you guys saw each other?
Yeah,
We did in Nashville.
Both
Yep.
went to the track?
Yeah.
Or was
Yeah.
it somewhere besides the track?
But we saw each other at a bar.
Yeah, we
At a
found-
bar?
Yeah, we
Mm-hmm.
what was
Okay.
that place called? Like Bourbon? Was it Bourbon Street?
Bourbon Street.
don't
No,
know.
wait, there were several bars.
I don't know. We started at 12:30 Club, and it just kind
Yeah,
of
went
kept
from
going
there.
on.
Yeah.
So
But we heard some
12:30
good-
Club.
That's Justin
It's on
Timberlake's
Broadway.
place.
Okay.
Yeah,
You've been
12:30
there.
Club is. That's
Yeah.
where the
Oh,
Is
there's
that
SY
the
party is.
karaoke bar?
No.
No, that's not. No. That was the place before you
That's
guys
where
went
we
to
need
the
to take her.
karaoke bar.
We need to take her to the karaoke bar.
I
Yes,
agree.
I know.
We want to hear her sing.
That was
that will
was a
happen.
time. I remember when we were for the banquet this past year.
Don't bring that up.
And we're all leaving the 12:30 Club. And mind everybody, this is before like this show was ever even a thought, right? And we're all leaving the 12:30 Club and walking up the street. It's like Larson and Clint and Kaitlyn and everybody. And I'm like, I need to go to bed. Like,
I
and they're
definitely
walking
needed
up the
to go to
street. I
bed
just
and
keep
did
walking
not.
slower and slower, and then start walking backwards and turn around and dipped because I knew Kevin
was
wasn't
smart.
gonna let me. Yeah.
That was a smart
dipped on
choice.
me.
On
Yeah, I did. I had
Yeah.
to. But yeah, so we saw
All
each
that
other.
talk. And then
Okay.
you dip out on the old guy.
the old guy.
I had a long night the night before, and Nashville like really gets me. But we
Nashville's
did
crazy.
we did the Trackside Chronicles vlog, so it was
That's
like
right.
a follow vlog. So we went
Okay.
to a bunch of different spots, hung out with the Barstool guys at Robbins Racing.
That's cool.
Went to
Went to the
wrestler.
Cowboy
The Cowboy,
hat
yeah,
shop.
wrestler. We went to Vandy, so that was cool too.
Our poor guy though had to drive like pretty much through the night to be here because by the time that race ended, it was what time? I mean,
Yeah, it was. I mean, I don't know.
was very late,
By the
so
time I
he's had a
left, it was
long-
like 11.
he's
Don't give him any excuses.
No, it's not. It was my fault.
It's your fault.
I missed my flight on Friday morning, and I had a small window to get to a shoe.
Always more to the story.
Yeah, it was my fault. So we drove
Yeah.
the old Hellcat.
Well, you have an
out
excuse for how you dress. You're tired.
You're tired.
Yeah.
You can't see straight,
Tired. You
right?
can't
Is
see
what you're
straight.
saying?
there. Okay, next.
All right, let's talk about the race, guys, because this was very eventful. I'm not really sure where to start with this one, honestly.
Gosh,
Yeah,
can't-
go ahead.
You can't start at the start
can't
because
start at
the
the start.
finish was just out of control.
Right.
So I think for me, the I guess the place to start is: do we like all the green white checkers?
It was getting pretty frustrating towards the end.
Yeah,
as a viewer.
I think
So-
you like them.
I'm saying I just don't. I think it robs. I know that it gets messy at the
Mm-hmm.
end, but just for it to get messy and then end on under caution, like in an ARCA race or something, I'm like, I don't like that at all. I'd rather.
So would you rather it end at the right distance and end under caution,
No.
or you just want it to keep
I just
going?
want it to end. I just want it to end under green flag, or at least the one lap, get the white flag, and then it. I think it takes a lot away when it just ends under caution.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree. And I think part of this is we are in the entertainment business.
Mm-hmm.
I
We
think that I think the traditional me would tell you that I want the race to end at the right distance,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's green or caution. But I like the show.
Yeah.
I like the fact that the race ended under green flag and they were competing, and it added all these different elements to the end of the race. It did drag all the slow cars to the front.
Which for playoff purposes is amazing.
Yeah, we're gonna have some attaboys for some of these teams.
It drug all the slow cars to the front. They were obviously making a lot more gas than the cars that were running
faster?
up front. The fact that Joey Logano could run that far, and I saw Chris Gabehart tweet after the race. A fan asked, "Well, how did Joey Logano go that far on fuel?" And Chris Gabehart wrote, "Because he was slow." And I think that it's, you just never know in this sport. I think you just have to keep yourself rolling. You have to keep yourself in contention. I've been on the other side of the fence where they have these rules where you can only do one green white checker. Well, then somebody will spin somebody out, or something happens and it ends the same way that it would have if it just ended at
If
the
it just
correct
ended.
distance. So we went away from the green white checkers unlimited when they had that truck race in St. Louis, and they had all those crashes at the end of the race. But I like it in an ending under green because I think that's what the fans want to see, and you just have these unexpected moments that show up with races ending this way, and now with Logano winning, it kind of turns that whole playoff picture
Yes, it
a
does.
little bit upside down. But I'm telling you, if one person outside of that top 16 wins, it's really going to get interesting because of the fact that you have Martin Truex. I feel like he's the only guy that's safe on points.
He's pretty
Ross
far up there.
Chastain, Ty Gibbs, Chris Buescher, and I can't remember who's 16th, but Bubba is out.
Alex Bowman.
Alex Bowman.
Bowman.
Yeah. So Bubba is out by like 51 points.
Yep.
So he's in trouble. And I think from his standpoint, I think he'd like to see his cars run faster, but I think they're capable of buckling down and finding some speed. It's just a matter of those racetracks match up right, because you've got
Big
Chicago
variety.
Street
Yeah.
Course, you've got Daytona Super Speedway, which they'll run good at. You've got another Richmond race. You've got some very unique racetracks. He'll run good at Michigan.
Yeah.
So, I think there are some racetracks that are good for him for the rest of the year, but it's a matter of getting into the playoffs and those races that they have leading up to the playoffs.
It's going to be interesting because we have a good chance that someone else could make that happen.
Yeah,
Actually, when you
I
look
think
at
so,
the
too.
variety of racetracks coming up. So you were there, as we talked about firsthand. What do you think as you're watching all of this unfolding? Drivers running out of gas, all these things happening.
Well, first I was trying to see through the waterfall
sweat?
of sweat that was just raining
belly
down.
button?
Like it was hot. Well, it was cooking, and those drivers, the teams, in the fire suits, everybody, the fans too. Shout out to you guys because you guys stayed through
was
the
packed.
weather.
It
was
was
packed out,
packed.
and even after, it was still packed out. The racing was it was very interesting because the strategy started changing so much, and we were sitting there, and I guess it was 8 of the top 10 were basically running out of gas, and you knew it. And I was talking to a couple of people that I was around. And I'm like, well, the problem is at this point when you go to the gas, there's not going to be any, now you're so low, there's nothing going to pick up, and that's when they're going to sputter. And then we saw that with Kyle Larson. So the strategy of it, I love, right? It just adds another element. It adds entertainment. It adds drama.
Yes.
But if if Zane Smith would have won, if Corey LaJoie would have won the 14, that would have changed that whole thing already. So we're percolating on disaster. And
Well,
stuff.
we thought probably Joey was going to get it. I think we all assumed that he. Oh,
He did not.
Oh, he did not.
No,
all
he
right.
didn't.
Well, I thought he had a pretty good shot to get in on
Yeah.
a win, but you could tell that he was incredibly relieved in his post race interview to now have
I think
that.
there's a lot of pressure on these guys. I've lived that. There's an immense amount of pressure that goes with being a Cup driver, and when you are in the position of being a 2-time champion like Joey Logano, and the expectations are as high as they are, not only put on by himself but by everybody else around him, right? Because there's a different value to a guy that's expected to win, that's won a couple championships and put those pieces together year after year after year. And when you're in that position to where you don't put those pieces together, that pressure starts to build. And especially as we get closer and closer to that cutoff date. So you could see the emotion just with, how many times he wiped his face and turned around, and just the awkwardness of the interview wasn't the typical Joey Logano interview. You could see the emotion and the relief in his interview after the race.
So let me ask you. So Penske went from, or especially early on in the year, the only one that was running well was the 12, was Blaney. We felt like he was consistent, but it wasn't dominating speed. We go to all these tracks that we talked about last week, off throttle tracks, using some brake, having to slow down and shift, and they have all won. Logano's won, Blaney's won, and Cindric's won. So now Penske has all three. And what does that change your view on the company, or do you still think that they aren't fast at enough of the other tracks?
Yeah,
to make a
well,
big
I think
push?
Blaney was the fastest car this weekend of their crowd, and he wasn't a winning contending car.
He's about 6, right?
Yeah, I didn't think he was winning contending. And I actually talked to Ryan about this last week. He came out to the summer shootout and was hanging out with Bubba and came by and said hi. And I asked him, I said, where are you at? And he said, well, we'll find out when we get to some of these bigger racetracks. And I think if they can run 5th or 6th at the Nashvilles, the mile-and-a-half racetracks, those types of places, I think they're going to be in contention.
Yeah.
When you looked at this at one point this weekend, the 4 or 5 Toyotas were the 4 or 5 first cars in the field. So I still feel like those guys have more grip, and they do a better job. They're doing a better job with the package that they have, whether it's aerodynamics or suspension or whatever it is. They just are able to run better. Denny was lights out. Martin was good at points. But when you looked at Christopher Bell and Tyler Reddick, there were several Toyotas up in the front that were fast.
You mentioned Tyler Reddick. His post-race interview, very dejected. What do you make of that? Just his frustrations right now with himself.
Yeah, I think Tyler Reddick knows that he should have won more races than he's won. That's my opinion. I think he's frustrated with the fact that he hadn't won. His car was way faster than Joey Logano's at the end, and he tried that top line both laps there at the end, and Logano just ran him up the hill and air blocked him, and he didn't leave himself any options. So, I think I think he's just frustrated with the fact that he hasn't won as many races as he felt like he should have won. And he's had so many heartbreak moments this year, whether it was Vegas or now Nashville. He was way faster than those cars around him. And Logano did a good job. He definitely took the line away and pushed him out of the groove. But there was a whole nother racetrack down there for as much faster as his car was. So I think he's frustrated with himself and the fact that he hasn't won as many as he thinks he should have.
At one point, I think the Toyotas had like 7 of the top 10, and they had like 4 of the top 5. I think Larson was the only one in there that was messing it up for him, and they were dominating. And then it's crazy. The sport is it gives you so much, and then it'll take away the next week because you got Christopher Bell out there doing what he's doing. Like, I'm like, oh and shoot, he might win another one here, and.
Spun it.
Like, just lost it over in 1 and 2.
His was, we saw the 9-car spin out a couple times. We saw the 6-car spin out. I think that he thought he was going to be clear. Spotter actually called him clear, and then the 3 drove in there and kind of tapped him in the left rear and spun him out. But the 9 spun out on his own twice. And when you look at Christopher Bell's moment, when those cars were, I think they were 3 wide in front of him, and he had one kind of at his left rear, and one on the outside, you kind of get into no man's land when those cars are side by side below you, and then you have those cars on one side or the other of you, and you get in this air pocket that really there's no air, and the next thing you know, the car just comes out from underneath you. And that's one characteristic of this next gen car that's so much different than what we used to have. You go, and you lean on it, and you try to get a little bit more, and it spins out. It's a knife's edge, and when you get to a place like Nashville where it's kind of got that choppiness of the bumps that go with the surface, and you're on the edge of spinning out like that, we saw some guys loop it around. We saw the 42 car spin out all on his own. So we saw a handful of cars just spin out on their own, and that's just nature of the beast.
I want to revisit something we talked about last week when Kyle Larson's spotter was a little critical of him, how he was racing Denny Hamlin. This once again showed up this past weekend with these 2 drivers. What do you think's going on here?
Well, I think this week, I think that's why I didn't like the comment towards Kyle last week, and I don't think that's the place to discuss those types of things on the radio. I think you discuss those things quietly behind closed door, and then you go out and make it happen. When the moment's right, and you do what you have to do to the other guy in those moments. And I think with the Larson scenario here, I mean, he was definitely trying to move the 11 out of the way, and it's like you said earlier, he was trying to do something out of character, hit the apron, and wound up wrecking the 1, and that took the 1 out of the race. It wrecked a few other cars, but that was really, instead of Kyle doing what Kyle does, he was kind of falling into the pressure of trying to do something out of character, and that was move Denny Hamlin or turn him sideways and push him out of the way instead of just pass him and do the things that he normally does to try to win the race, and it got somebody else in trouble.
Yeah, we see it in other sports all the time. It's play your game.
Play
your game. And I think Kyle, I mean, a lot of fans were critical of him, like on socials and stuff, for letting, Denny kind of bully him around. And I think Kyle was like in a situation where he's like, oh, I can take this, I can kind of flip the script. And it kind of reminds me of Dale Jr. and Kyle Busch way back at like Richmond, and Dale felt like he had to get Kyle back, right? And he felt like he was letting fans down if he didn't and letting people down. And Kyle tried, I think, a little bit, and he got him. But all of a sudden the sparks fly on the left front, and we're in the apron. And
that's the part that I think you learn along the way. And I think Kyle Larson will take a lesson from this and say, you know what?
I'm going to do what I normally
listen to the guys around me in some of these situations, because the crew guys, they'll put this unneeded pressure on you to do stuff like that, and the fans will put this unneeded pressure on you to kind of force you into doing something that's out of character. And that's just not the way Kyle Larson races.
No.
He's going to be aggressive. He's going to put that car in places that it typically wouldn't go because of the way that he drives. But when you try to start doing things like that and do them intentionally and try to do things that you normally don't do, you get yourself in trouble. And I think that's just something that you learn from the pressure that comes with the fans.
Yep.
I had a spotter before when I drove the 29 car. It was always just firing at me to go wreck that guy or go do this or don't let that guy push you around. And I don't think that's the right place to do it. I think that you have to have those conversations and be a little more methodical about how you go about those scenarios and when you push somebody around and how you push somebody around. And it's not on the radio from a guy who doesn't really know what he's doing.
I would say that Larson
or fans who don't know what they're doing.
I would say that Larson is like when you compare the two guys, like I would pick Larson as like talent wise, like but Denny, the way Denny races and the way Kyle races, Denny is his kryptonite for sure. Like if Kyle's Superman, the way Denny races and puts him in different situations and bullies him, like Kyle puts people in tough situations to where they need to make a decision to lift or not, or they're going to wreck. Denny puts Kyle in the situations that are, I don't care. You're either going to wreck or I'm going to be fine, right? They do a lot of bully ball.
I just, I don't even think that was the right place to wreck him, do you?
No, on the entry to one.
You can't be bumper to bumper like that, pushing him into the corner. You're not just going to push those tanks out of the way.
No, and he's going to not be able to turn either, right? They're going to kind of get locked together and go up the hill.
Yeah, I just, I think in those scenarios, and I had this conversation with some of our younger drivers a couple weeks ago. I said, look, when you're in a position to win the race, that's not when you settle the score. And I think it's you try to win the race first and settle the score later, because I still believe that Kyle Larson could have won that race if he'd have raced like Kyle Larson. And I just think that he was trying to force the issue on something that was just not how he would have done it typically.
I also think to end that is you got Ross Chastain on the top. Ross is going to do whatever he needs to do. And if there's one guy that he's going to really run hard, it's going to be the 11. So like, I would have let Ross I would have let that play out a little bit and then be the
because
benefactor.
at that point, Ross didn't have the race car that Denny Hamlin had.
No.
And Ross had done a great job of holding off Denny Hamlin as long as he did. And he had another chance to fire off in there and was probably going to be door to door. But and likely Kyle Larson could have just let that play out, like you said, and drove around them both. But I don't know. I just, it seems out of character for Kyle, and I think a lot of that comes from just the guys around him that putting the pressure on him to do something like that. And I think naturally you can take care of a lot of that stuff without forcing the issue.
Maybe he needs to tell him to shut the up again. Hey, just say that. Drop that in there.
Look, these are just things that you learn along the way.
That's right.
And Kyle Larson has experienced a lot of things, and he's going to go back and look at this scenario, and it always has to be win the race first. It's not the time to settle the score. So
that's the story for Kyle Larson. What about Kyle Busch? Because this poor man, this team, I mean, it's like I wrote down all the different things occurring. They had radio issues. He slid through his pit stall. He was off the lead lap at one point. Hail Mary move from Randall Burnett. But then he's finally in the front. I mean, contending in the top 5. But we want this to work out for you, Kyle.
KB, hats off to you, my friend, because I feel so bad.
I do too.
I feel so bad because they put themselves in a position to really like have a shot at a win. They did everything right. They executed.
They really did.
Went through adversity, and it came down to a strategy. And the 5 just runs out of gas, and you're just in the middle, sandwich in the middle with nowhere to go.
27th on the day.
And the first part of the race they ran 30th, 31st, running in the back. Terrible. All the mistakes. Finally, they get it all turned around. They get the track position. They get up front, and he gets spit out of the line. He's the guy that gets sent out of the line into the fence. And I don't even know how you fix it at this point because they didn't do anything wrong. He didn't do anything wrong.
They've run the gamut.
He is on the worst bad luck cycle of
anyone
on the circuit right now. And it is bad. Like, don't go around Kyle Busch right now because it is. If you want bad luck, don't get around that guy because he is.
I feel
he
for
is
him.
Plagued with bad luck.
If they're able to sneak a win though, because all that fire and motor and frustration, if they're able to sneak one in, he'll be a bulldog in the playoffs.
Yeah. And we saw changes this week. Andy Petrie out as the competition director at RCR. So that tells me that there's obviously some issues on the performance side with everything that is going on with Andy, stepping down or getting pushed out or whatever the scenario is. They obviously feel like they need to make their race cars run faster because they're now looking for a new competition director, have an intern competition director, and it's the last couple of weeks the 3 cars outrun the 8 for the most part. I think the 3 has run a little bit better, but has outrun the 8. But I think there's definitely some things that they're trying to address internally with the moves that they're starting to make, and it looked like it was Andy Petrie first.
Man, well, we're thinking about Kyle Busch and hoping that his luck will eventually turn. So I want to give a few attaboys. You guys kind of mentioned them a little bit. The Zane Smith story, getting the runner-up finish. That's huge for that team because they have struggled this year.
They have, and it's like we talked earlier. A lot of the cars that were slow had the most fuel because they burned less fuel, and
they kept pitting too.
Yeah, and they wound up at the front of the pack. So there was some strategy that played into this, but there was also a lot of luck that went
every now and then
with winding up in the front. But that happens in these races. You have to be able to keep your car rolling, and you just never know. You can never quit at any point during these races because you don't know when the next 5 green-white checkers are going to come. I don't think that anybody saw that as happening this weekend, but it'll happen again.
Yeah.
And you just never know where. But I think when you look at Chase Briscoe was up there, ran not great all day. Zane didn't run great all day. Kyle Busch didn't run great all day. Corey LaJoie didn't run great all day. Joey Logano didn't run great all day.
Ryan.
It was the back third of the field at one point that was up in the front of the pack with the way that everything cycled around with the fuel. So strange race, wild race, fun to watch. I enjoyed all the different things that happened watching through the race this weekend. So what did
you guys think? Looking at another Spire car, Holsafar in the 27.
That's right.
And
we wanted to talk about
Burton
this.
in the 21. So the wreck, there's a wreck in 1 and 2, and then all of a sudden Burton's on the backstretch, turn around.
Yeah,
I still didn't really understand because I was at the track, so I also couldn't.
So everything that I've taken in on this scenario is, I guess Harrison blocked the 77 and he didn't like it, and then under the caution he came up and NBC had a view of it where you could see Hocevar accelerate. And you could see the 21 drag the brake a little bit when he started hitting him, brake checking him a little bit, and then Hocevar just spun him out. And I was a little disappointed that they didn't. I don't like the wrecking under the caution. I don't like the right rear hook. I think there are just certain places that NASCAR needs to draw the line. I really don't like the under caution piece of it. I wish they had a black flag me and parked me more times for doing that because it's just, it's just not the right way to do it. And so Hocevar got away with that one so far, in my opinion, but I think it was definitely a missed call on the NASCAR side of it. So,
is that the only missed call?
No, I think that the 8 car on the
what is going on
under
with
the
that?
caution. So I went through this at Darlington last year. We all piled up and I actually didn't spin out or anything. I got hit from the back, hit from the front, and I just slowed down and wound up with contact. But the way that the rule is right now, it's not as if you're involved in the wreck. It's where they throw the caution and, if you're just slowing down for the wreck. And the reason that they want the rule this way is they don't want people speeding through the wrecks under caution. So if you have to slow down like Kyle Busch did to keep from continuously hitting the car that was in front of him, who was Jack sideways?
42?
Yeah. Well, 42 or whoever it was dead sideways in front of him. So he just basically, he didn't stop, but he went up, scrubbed the wall, slowed down. He actually never hit the 42 again or whoever that was.
Yeah.
So he just slowed down and they gave him his spot back. But the reason that they do that, it's not that he was involved in the caution. It's not whether you're involved in the caution. It's a matter of, it's not even a matter of maintaining pace. But when they throw that caution, if they deem you as a part of that wreck or you were spun out or anything like that. So it's kind of a strange rule, but the reason that they don't worry about how much you slow down during that wreck is because they don't want people driving through that wreck faster than they need to and hitting cars unnecessarily.
Okay.
Probably like when we used to race to the line, right?
Yeah.
Way back. A lot of people probably don't.
Yeah, and that
new
rule
fans
ended
had no
because
idea
Dale
that.
Jarrett was sitting in the middle of the straightaway sideways and 2 cars went around him at full speed trying to get their lap back. Right. And he was, wrecked and could have been hurt. And so weird scenario, but
Very weird
I'm
scenario.
not 100% sure that was the wrong call. I
Okay.
think I know that they got criticized on the air
Mm-hmm.
for making the wrong call, but I don't 100% think that it was the wrong call based
Yeah.
on the current rule.
Right.
There you go. Thanks for clearing that up
Yeah.
for us. You referenced one other driver I wanted to touch on briefly. It was Ryan Preece. A good run for him. We know obviously all the things that the Stewart-Haas Racing guys are going through right now with added motivation to try and perform. And that was a good
Ryan Preece finished
showing for him.
fourth. Who else was up there? AJ Allmendinger, I think, finished 11th. Hemrick was ninth.
Ninth or 10th, yeah.
Yeah, ninth. And then Justin Haley again, with a lot of damage, somehow sneaked out 13th.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, I like seeing those guys.
Justin Haley, I mean,
Just know at this point he's not sneaking anything.
yeah,
No,
we're going to
he
just
is-
start putting
He's
him in the group.
legitimate.
Yeah.
He is a legitimate contender week in and week out because we keep mentioning his name and
Yep.
people keep mentioning his name. He's a contender now. He's
Is he a top 20 guy?
he's a top 20 guy.
Top 20 guy.
I think so. I mean,
That's awesome.
Rick Ware has that alliance with RFK, and it's obviously paying off for him because he's consistently up there.
Okay, so these regular season races are starting to decrease.
Yeah.
Who are we really concerned about right now that really needs to make some things happen?
Well, we've obviously touched on Kyle Busch.
Right.
We're
Right.
concerned about Kyle Busch. I'm concerned about Bubba Wallace.
Okay.
For me, I think they're just missing a little bit on the speed side of things and haven't been able to put a lot of things together. And when they do, it's kind of been like Kyle Busch. It doesn't go right for them. It doesn't seem to work out in the end. So I think they have the capability to put more speed together at certain places, and it's just going to come down to capitalizing on those days where he's able to go to a racetrack where they can do that. But the problem now, he's 51 points out of 16th. And if another person wins, then it's going to be an even bigger deficit, and they're going to have to point their way through some stages and start scoring more points at a much more rapid pace. So he's my big concern. I don't know about you guys.
So you're saying panic button for the 8.
I was going to say, is that a panic
button for the
sure
8.
and the 8? Yeah.
Panic button for the 4. Panic button for the 14.
Yeah.
Panic
Briscoe.
button for the 23.
I mean, I guess we can't make that a segment now. We just ran through half the field.
Well, it's
Yeah.
fair though. There's a lot of people in
I mean,
a
who
bad
sticks
spot
out to
right
you?
No,
now.
I think the 4.
Chase
I think,
Briscoe.
Yeah,
for me,
I think the
but-
4. Yeah, no, I agree. I
Yeah.
think the 14. I think there's just guys, everyone kind of outside the top 18, 19. You just don't see them winning. Like, you don't see where. So they're gonna have to really manufacture something.
Well-
and this was a place this was a perfect opportunity to manufacture a win out of nothing, and it went to someone who is
That's
already.
what Joey Logano did.
That's what Joey did.
Manufactured a win out of nothing.
Yeah.
And this weekend we're going to a street course. So God
And I
knows.
think when you talk about Chase Briscoe, I mean he's got more on his plate now. They announced him as the
That's right.
as the 19
New driver.
So
We've been saying that for a
yeah,
while.
and I think now he's got to manage all of that as well. So going to a different manufacturer and what they want to keep and not.
I
keep.
thought it was interesting too that they reported about Michael McDowell, how his resources have been decreased now
Yeah.
that he's also moving, and that could be very problematic for
Yeah,
them.
and I think it'll be the whole Stewart-Haas situation is going to be unique as far as what happens with the resources, because you've got Chase going to a different manufacturer. You got the other 3 guys that aren't 100% sure.
No idea where
You
they're
got
going.
crew chiefs that are probably going to go other places. So what are the resources going to be as we get towards the end of the year for Stewart-Haas? Are they going to get better engines from Yates for the playoffs if they have guys, or are they just going to get what they have? Is Ford really going to be 100% behind Stewart-Haas Racing because of the fact that they know they're not going to be around?
If I'm Todd Gilliland, I'm probably pretty happy. Because he's like one of the only guys that they know that he stayed with Ford. He's like,
Yeah.
I'm getting good engines. Like, I don't know what you guys like. I'm good.
It's going to be interesting, no doubt about it, as all of these teams try to manage these things in the next couple of weeks. All right, I see you're already queuing up the sip.
Oh, man.
I think it's
I
about
could
that
tell.
time.
I could tell. I could tell. it was
Loves the
coming.
spotlight, just
Yeah.
not a mirror.
Listen,
Loves this.
welcome.
You got a lot of
Howdy, partners.
cool sips this week.
Welcome to Mamba's Social Sips. Okay, we're gonna start right here. Kevin brought up cool suits, cool shirts, and so TJ Majors, the spotter for Brad Keselowski, had a cool suit shirt on the tower on the top there, spotting for Brad. I guess in practice. And Bob Procris had an interview with Brad about it. It's like, are you gonna reimburse TJ for the cool suit? Like, is he gonna have to pay for this himself? And I think it's funny because there was a time not too long ago that people would give a lot of shit to drivers that wore, a helmet hose, cool suit. And now we got spotters doing it. And I'm not saying that it's a bad thing because it's hot out there.
You probably wanted one, didn't you?
I would have
you were out
one.
there.
Even when I'm doing intros, sometimes I want one. It's only 20 minutes. What's your take? Say you, Kevin Harvick.
I'd rather keep them cool.
Yeah.
It's a long day, and the cooler that you can keep yourself, the better you're going to perform. And if you're inside that race car and you're hot, miserable, we saw so many of those guys miserable on Saturday with their cool shirts going out in the car. But it's the same thing up there. It's not like they do them any favors with
standing out
putting
in the
any
sun.
Screens or anything around them.
Right.
They just leave them up on top of
Right
the
in the
roof to
sunlight.
bake. So I'm all for it. I
am too.
I think they should. Maybe they should build something that has some shade for those guys up on top of these roofs.
Yeah,
Do you think
kidding.
at this point could we just put a
Just
little
a damn
overhang, like a little?
Just put
An awning.
a
Yeah,
little
little-
awning over the top, and maybe three sides you could put some screen on that you could still see through.
run
I
some-
don't know, but
run the fan
it seems
through
like we could create a little better scenario for the
Environment
guys that
for
you know
them.
they're going to be up there every single week.
It's kind of been the
Yeah.
same for what, like 30, 40? Like
Yeah, but now they're up there. Now they're up there actually thinking, right? So now they've got hoods on. They're taking care of themselves.
yeah.
And so now we've got cool shirts. We've got sun shirts. We've got all kinds of stuff up there.
We're
But
just trying
you get
to-
somebody like my old guy, Rick Corelli, up there. I mean, what's he, 75, 80 years
He's
old?
still doing it, right?
Yeah, he's still up there spotting. He might fall out. You got to be careful. High
want-
plains
Yeah.
drifter might go down.
we don't want anyone going down.
No, no.
We're all for the cool suits for
We're all
everybody.
for the cool suits and looking
Yeah.
cool.
You think
and-
Corelli would wear one?
I don't know.
I feel like he's
you
so
know-
old school he wouldn't.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, but the minute he got it one time, I think he'd be
Then
like,
maybe,
"Oh
yeah,
no,
I
I
haven't
can do this
experienced
another
this.
10 years."
I think
if
so.
got this. So
I think so.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're trying to stay cool. Someone who was a car that was cool this weekend was Bubba Wallace's car. Had Luke Combs all over it.
That is cool.
Who's Luke Combs?
What?
You're-
You know who
no,
that
no,
is.
Stop playing. Stop playing. You're not getting me on that, Kevin
Okay.
Harvick. No,
You
sir.
didn't know who T-Pain was.
That I'm not surprised on that. Luke
That-
Combs, there's no way. So the car looked awesome. Luke was also the honorary pace car driver,
Okay.
so that was cool, and he was having a good time. There's a lot of country music artists
He's
out
a
there.
North Carolina boy.
Yeah, he's one of our guys. I've seen him. I've seen him perform at Coyote Joe's a couple of times actually.
Yeah, he's a great entertainer.
So I think you know what? I think that Luke. I think you should come on over and be on part of Kevin Harvick's Happy Hour
yeah.
podcast.
Let's
I'm having a
him
hard
on.
time looking at you right now.
Why?
Well, it's Dennis Rodman's lips. I can't tell if it. I mean, it looks like it's blowing me a kiss every time.
He is.
Every time I look over at you, it's like right. I mean, he's staring at me.
Okay. Well,
Look at now. Look,
Kevin is really
every
not
time
in
you look at
favor
him,
of
it's
this
awkward.
outfit.
I know. I think it's great. It's really distracting him.
It
I'm
is
surprised you made
distracting.
the whole show.
I can't
this
look
way.
at your face because I'm looking at his.
Okay. Well, invite Luke to the show, please. We want Luke on here.
Okay.
Can we have Morgan Wallen on here, please?
You know, I'm not sure. We got Clint Boyer on today.
I mean, okay.
Clint Boyer, Morgan Wallen. I don't know.
I mean, you did just lead me right into Clint. So, did you see the clip of Cash and Clint?
I did.
Okay, so Cash gets interviewed by Michael Waltrip, and he's like, "Are you having fun? How's your racing career going?" And Cash goes, "Yeah, well, I'm the only one that's won a
Winning,
race
yeah.
between me and this guy." And the way he said it was so adult,
really was.
and was so Clint Boyer. I fell out.
He
Oh,
looked-
Cash is all Clint Boyer.
Hey, Cash, how you been, buddy?
Good.
How's your racing career going? Are you having fun?
Yeah, I'm having fun. I'm actually the only one that's won this season so far, competing with this guy.
it's
He
like
came to North Wilkesboro to the All-Star race, and he is all Clint.
it's like copy paste. Yeah.
Copy and paste Clint.
That's-
So I
that's
was sitting there
scary.
with Keelan, and we were watching, and he heard he saw the clip of Cash saying that. He's like, "What would you do if I said that?" I said, "First off, buddy, neither one of you are race car drivers. he's a go-kart driver, and you're a legend car driver. So when you earn the title race car driver, come back to me." And second, Clint hasn't even raced.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That was his first race. I thought he did fine.
he did. He did
Yeah.
a good job.
Yeah.
He even got a little tussle too.
He did.
He did.
With who?
I don't know. He had damage on the nose. I think he just kind of bumped. It might have been Parsons or something. Maybe it was Lane Riggs. Might have bumped Lane Riggs out of the way.
I got you.
Yeah. And last but not least, so there was an interesting tweet from an interesting account that came out. The tweet said this was replying to Chase Briscoe's announcement of going to JGR.
You could explain the backstory of the shirt, right?
Yeah, so
He
the
said
shirt,
it was a
the
picture
shirt
of
had
Chase with his
the shirt
son.
had the Toyota logo on it and the JGR logo, and then the Bass Pro.
Bass Pro on his son.
Now it's a little awkward because you're still driving for another manufacturer. But you brought up the point of the sweepstakes thing. I didn't know. What is that?
I had
I'm
no
pretty
idea.
sure sweepstakes 1901 is Edsel Ford. I think that's kind of like his account on X. So,
But that's not common knowledge, right? Is it? Or is it?
I mean,
Or obviously, but
feel
I
like
never knew that.
I feel like it's common knowledge if you're driving a Ford.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Okay, I see now.
I feel like it's common knowledge if you're driving a Ford. But to Etzel's point, I think it's a major fail on Chase's part to have that Toyota logo on during the year. I know when we announced Josh Berry's stuff that he was coming to Stewart-Haas, it was definitely, we made a point to make sure that he had a Stewart-Haas logo, and that was it, and worked with Junior Motorsports to make sure that they were okay with everything that was happening. Now, it's a little bit different situation with him leaving a team that's closing, but I still think that you don't want the Edsel Fords of the world mad at you. You want to
just an
go out
etiquette
on the
thing, right?
You want to go out on the right foot because you may have to cross that bridge again. And I think it's just, I know in these situations that people can be frustrated and they can be at a point where they're not happy, and you get super excited about what you're doing next. But I think it's definitely a mistake by having that Toyota logo on before the season ended, because of the fact that he still is a Ford driver, still on a Ford team, and I think there were definitely some things that were missed on Chase Briscoe's part in doing that and having that logo on his shirt.
Daddy is not impressed.
Yeah. Well,
No.
I mean, they spent a lot of money on.
Yeah, and
on his
I think
development, so.
Ford has been really good to Chase Briscoe through the years,
Yeah.
and I think that it sometimes it takes the smallest thing to rub people the wrong way,
Yeah.
and when you look at it, if you make that manufacturer mad and you make somebody like Edsel Ford mad, that's 1/3 of your options currently.
Oh.
So you
So if
got
you gotta
three
come back-
options from
Yeah.
a manufacturer standpoint. You got Ford, Chevy, Toyota. You can't make one mad.
Do you think he just didn't think about it, or not getting good guidance there, or what?
both?
I think, yeah.
Yeah, I
Okay.
think both. I mean, it could have been. I think it's both. I think some of those, sometimes in those scenarios, the self-awareness that goes along with doing the right things is good. I mean, there's no way the team would have said no way. It's just, hey, I got to respect my current deals and the things that I have going on right now to make sure that I don't make anybody mad. So, I love the fact that Chase is getting an opportunity to go drive a great car. For sure. But I think this is definitely one of those things that you just gotta go through the rest of the season, making sure you check all those boxes to do the right thing.
Yeah. I mean, I think it was just a shirt off the rack because it's probably the one that the whole team wears, and they just didn't really. He's like, yeah, that'll work, and they just didn't really think about it. So, but
But it happened.
But it happened,
But it
and it got someone's
Sweepstakes
attention.
1901.
Got someone's attention. All right, Kev, this is the burnout session.
Yeah,
So this one is tough.
I thought it was
little-
pretty good.
I mean,
You didn't think so?
I mean, it was
decent?
okay until it ran out of gas.
Right. So
yeah.
he's kind of at a
Yeah. I mean, Joey
disadvantage.
always does good burnouts, but the execution of the burnout it started okay, and then it just ended because there was no gas. So,
Yeah.
it's like saying, I did great on the first half of the test and didn't finish the rest of it. So
I think because he had to get the fuel all the way there, I'm gonna give him a pass. I'm just not gonna grade him. I'm just gonna be like, the fact he even gave any
he got a
burnout-
pass. He went to victory lane.
Yeah, but the fact that he was able to do any burnout, that was impressive. That he was able to keep any gas to keep
Yeah.
that thing
Yeah,
going. So,
I saw. I saw. I don't remember who tweeted it, or is that what? Do we call it a tweet?
I'm still calling it. Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's fine.
If it's on X, what do we call a post?
I
now?
think it's an act. I don't know. We should ask the.
We should ask them. Yeah, we have a live audience.
a
Maybe-
live
maybe
group
they
of
would
interns.
know.
Is it a tweet or a post? What is it? Do you guys know?
Nobody knows. So we're
Okay.
going to call it a tweet. But I saw a tweet after the race, and somebody said, "Man, I don't understand how Joey Logano was able to go this far on fuel. Might have been Chase Briscoe that said something about the fuel. Not sure how he went farther than me. Chris Gabehart responded and said, because he was slow. So, yeah, I think the burnout it started off good. Typical Joey Logano fashion was going to be a great burnout, and then was quickly interrupted by the lack of fuel in the fuel tank, and the car shut off, and he wound up facing the crowd and doing his interview with no more burnout.
They all went crazy though. So
Well, if it's SVG again this weekend, we know his burnouts are insane.
Yeah.
So
And he's gonna kick that rugby ball up into the stands.
that's right.
yeah. So
Okay, so who's still P1? Do we remember who's P1 for burnout?
Yeah. It
who
was.
was it?
No, well, first he had Logano first.
Logano for the
but
All-Star, right?
then he really liked Cindrix because it was that
On the Cup side, I think it was Cindrix, but I think overall, I mean the SVG Sonoma burnout.
that's because there's so much going into
with
it.
the Austin Hill finger hanging
Yeah,
out the
the
window,
window.
and him just
Epic.
totally doing a burnout all the way back to the start finish
The
line was pretty
pettiness,
awesome.
The pettiness. Real quick before we start to wrap this up, another race impacted by rain. So
I
we
thought of that,
are,
actually.
Unfortunately, I think of these things too, and I'm like, maybe we should just go to dinner now.
no,
He just wants to get it over with.
No, I know, but I'm like MJ, and I want you to know that I won the bet. Like I want you to know that I won. I can't win if you give it to me.
There you
All right.
go.
Yeah,
All right,
So technically,
guys.
you haven't won yet.
right. I'm gonna win, but
Time now for our last call. And I mentioned it, Chicago this weekend, street course race. Who you picking?
You know who I'm picking.
I think you might know who I'm picking too.
I think he's going to win again.
Me too.
I think SVG's going to win again.
I do think so.
so you. Okay.
I think the long shot's Justin Haley.
No,
Ooh, I
no,
like
you don't
that.
get a long shot because that's my guy. I'm picking,
who you're picking?
Justin Haley to win this race.
like it.
Wow.
Because they put himself in a situation last year to win it. And actually, I changed my mind because you just got me fired up because you used him as a secondary. Because originally I was going to pick Tyler Reddick because I thought it was redemption time. Because he was actually the only one that could keep up with
He'll be good.
SVG.
will.
And he has ties to Chicago, Illinois. You know, Jumpman being
That could be a
from
good
there.
story, yeah.
Yeah, but I think I'm going Justin Haley.
Okay. Justin Haley and 2 SVGs as we head to Chicago this weekend. You talked about it. Clint Boyer, he's your next guest, right?
He is.
Oh,
And
boy.
I'm excited because it's you never know what's going to come out of Clint's mouth when he starts talking, and he gets excited and wound up. And now that I've been around him enough to understand that you can get him going off in different directions. Who knows what we're going to talk about today?
I know. I'm curious. Did you even prepare anything? You
I
probably
did
didn't
prepare
have to.
today. I always prepare, which
Well,
I
I know,
typically
but-
do in the booth. But usually it's useless because we go down these random roads. And Clint and I got so comfortable at the end in the booth that we would just go down these rabbit holes of things that were fun or funny. Some people thought they were funny. Some people didn't. But we care, but we don't. Or as Chris Myers would say, we kid because we care.
Yeah, that's what he says.
Yeah. So
All right.
I think it'll be fun.
I hope that Clint cracks open a beer to start the show. I hope that'd be very.
I would
fun.
assume that Clint's probably at the lake. So
Oh, yeah.
You think he's
I
gonna
don't
have
know
a
what
shirt
time
on
it
then?
is, but it's
Is he gonna have a
it's
shirt on?
definitely probably beer time for Clint.
You could get one.
All
Somebody's been
hours of
getting
the
one
day.
out
Somebody
of these.
has
Somebody's
robbed
been
2 beers
sneaking
out of there.
those.
Was that you?
It has not been me.
It was definitely
I
not me.
know those are
Bud
iconic.
Heavies too.
Those are iconic beers back there. I'm not
Who
not
knows?
going after those.
I don't know. We'll have to keep an eye on that
right.
stash. All right, guys, it's been a good show. We encourage everyone to keep subscribing on YouTube, wherever you get your podcast, and we'll see you next week after Chicago.